Our guests today have an amazing story to tell. This is the first time we are talking to two people sitting together on an episode of this podcast, and we're doing it because it's a he said, she said approach that we want to take today on the topic of partners and pain. When one part of a couple is in pain, it's experienced in very different ways by each person. And Brian and Naomi Whitaker are here today to talk about it because they lived through it firsthand. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you both for
Hi.
joining. Hi, Brian. Okay, let's jump into it. Before we get to the pain part of your story, I'd like to go back to the beginning. How did you guys meet?
You want to go?
Take that one.
Sure. Yeah. So we met in high school, and we met in class, and I guess the most memorable part is that we would pass notes and back and forth about the teachers in our class, kind of joking about the teachers. And we met as juniors in high school, and went to junior prom together as friends, and then senior prom as a couple.
Wow. And how many years ago was that?
2004.
Oh.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. 20 years and 5 kids and a lifetime ago, right? Okay. So, and Brian, you were very active, right? Before pain really impacted you, what did your life look like?
Yeah, before I was injured, like if I go back to the teenage years, I was very active, played lots of sports, played sports all my life. And up to, in high school varsity sports. And then I joined the military when I was in college, and I was in infantry. So that's a very active MOS, a very active job in the military. And
so you were wearing over 100 pounds of gear. You were doing all the physical stuff.
Yeah, we do the 10-mile runs, 25-mile ruck march with all the gear, stuff like that. Yeah, it was very active.
And at some point, there was wear and tear with everything that was going on. And Naomi, when he came back, something really dramatic happened, right? He collapsed. Was that the first sign of a problem?
Yes. Yeah.
What happened?
He was holding our 6-month-old, our first child, and turned the wrong way or went to reach for something and collapsed.
Were you there?
Yeah.
I mean, Naomi, were you there?
With him.
Oh, you were alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was alone. I was about to leave. We were going on some errand or something. And I was just carrying my son like in one arm. I dropped my keys going out the door, and I reached down to pick them up. And that's when I first had a really bad back spasm that just like put me down.
Well, that's what we thought it was.
So that's the first time that I noticed it, like so extreme. But I did have another incident while I was overseas, and I had a vehicle like fall into a hole, kind of roll over, that I was driving, and it was at nighttime, and so I couldn't see. And anyway, where we kind of pinpointed everything started.
Everything started. And you were young at this point. You were in your mid-20s, right? Like 25, 26 when on that day you dropped your baby. Baby was okay. You were okay, right? I mean, it must have been traumatic.
Yeah, he was fine. He never hit the floor or anything. It was just me. Like, I just went down, and like the typical like seizure, like the muscle spasm that like seizes up, everything just like can't move. So I was like on the floor for like a good 15, 20 minutes at least, maybe longer. So yeah, it was that was the first time I had such extreme pain where I couldn't like move, and then that's where it really started to affect family, I guess, is another way to look at it. Because when it affected me overseas, it was just me, but that was the first time that it started to impact family.
All right, so now let's go to the she said part of this, Naomi. I mean, and that was the first time, and then it got really severe really fast, or what happened after that?
Brian, do you remember the details? I just it did escalate. I don't remember the timeline, but it did progress over time, and we kept trying to do all these interventions, thinking it was just back spasms since he was young, and we didn't really understand. Um, so we spent a lot of money and time doing chiropractor visits and any intervention we could think of. Um, but over time, it continued to progress to something more serious where he was in bed more often than not. And, we even tried, gabapentin, and that only made things worse. And we were really concerned about back surgery because, what we hear are all the bad stories, especially for people that are young. And so we were really afraid to open that door. And we were afraid that opening the door of spine surgery would cause more surgeries, fusions, limitations of mobility, and he's so young. And over time he would have some windows where he was okay. But anyway, we did end up doing a surgery the first round where he had another big incident. He would have chronic pain and then he'd have a bigger incident, and it would just kind of escalate over time. And so the next time he had a really big incident, we had 3 kids at that point, and that's when he was just almost always in bed due to pain.
For months at a time, you said, right? Like,
I think it was 9 months.
wow.
Right, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
It was a long time.
Yeah, that was right before the first surgery. Those 9 months, and that was because like I could physically get up, but I couldn't be upright for more than like 10 minutes before I would the pain would be so overwhelming and the muscle spasms would be so overwhelming that I couldn't even I couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't really eat very much. I had to eat quickly. Like I couldn't work. I couldn't playing with the kids was totally not even on my mind because I was very much I remember saying I feel like I'm 80 years old. Like I felt like, and I was like 20,
and he
late
looked
20s.
like it. His body would curl up from all the spasms, and our whole life.
The spasms would bring me pull me down. It was so
curve you.
Very,
I mean, and there's so many layers to this, right? Like you guys did this for a decade. You were dealing with this off and on, these extreme situations. So, I mean, physically, Brian, obviously for you, it's heart-wrenching. Naomi, for you to watch him feeling like that must be awful. And then, right, you're growing your family. You have 5 children at the time. What's both of your perspectives when you look back on those 10 years? Like, whew, that must have, we talk about the in sickness and in health vows when you get married, but you guys really went through it. How hard was it? How did you get through it? I don't know. What's sort of your takeaway from those 10 years?
Yeah, I think it was one day at a time. I don't know. I mean, we had to, and we really did our research. We didn't want to make it worse. And so unfortunately we waited a long time before the first intervention. Luckily we did find a good surgeon the first time that didn't do much damage at all and did a minimally invasive procedure. Yeah, I don't know how we did it. It was one day at a time. It was just getting by. And we even financially really struggled because of it as well. We had to use credit cards to eat for a while. And so, unfortunately, all parts of your life are affected by that. The physical, the financial, and then the emotional toll on the relationship, on not being able to go travel to family, not really being able to go really anywhere with him, kind of I had to run the whole life around his back and watch him suffer and not be able to fix it.
I just want to say you guys are amazing to share this and to be so honest and vulnerable. And we know you're not alone. We know, 80% of people have back pain in their life. A lot of them it is extreme. And I just don't think people talk enough, to your point, Naomi, about how much is affected. Like yes, it's back pain, but it's so much more than that. Brian, what do you think got you through those 10 years?
Yeah, I don't know. Every day was a struggle to, like, I didn't have, it was very short-term thinking. Like, I just woke up, I would just like try to make it through that day. Like or even that morning. It really wasn't like, there was no long-term planning. There was very much like a waiting period. Like, life is happening and I'm just in pain trying to get through the day. So like, there's no like, um, big picture goals like being accomplished. Like, at least for me, I was just trying to, you know, spend
Wait,
some amount
you
of
were,
time with my family, with my wife and kids, when I wasn't in extreme pain. Um, and then other times, when I was around them and I was in a lot of pain, it was hard on uh, everybody around me because I was very irritable, I was in so much pain. Like, I couldn't sit down on the couch and have someone sit next to me without having a pain spike, like a
Oh,
back spasm because someone sits next to you on the couch, which is, something like you would want for your kids to be able to do, sit next to you or something like that.
mhm.
Um, so little things. It was, how did we get through it? I, I don't know. It was just managing it, trying our best, like each day, and the Naomi was very supportive, and that was a big deal, because I couldn't have done it without her. Like, our family couldn't have gotten through it without her. I think that's a big unspoken part of back pain, like for couples, is the person who's assisting um, the person in pain. And there was a big load on her, like an extra load that she um, had to bear, and it was hard for us at times. Like, as a couple, it was um, not always like, because every person has their limit, and it's just, we're all human. So, but Naomi was really great, and she's very loving and caring all throughout the whole incident, more than I could have ever asked for. Um,
I
so
know she's crying. But you know what, Naomi, we're putting this story out on Valentine's Day, and I think, it's an extra special love story because it really is the idea that you day in, day out for 10 years. It is the biggest expression of love that I can imagine between a couple. I know we didn't mean to make you cry,
I know.
but I think
I
this
was
is
up all night too, so working. So that
but,
doesn't help.
but I mean, you are not the only couple dealing with this, and Brian is exactly right. Is there anything you want to say to the counterparts out there who are in the position that you were in for 10 years?
I mean, you feel very isolated, because yeah, everyone says, "Well, I have back pain too," and you know, it's hard when uh, it's just so different for everyone, and it's hard when someone says that, and your whole life feels like it's on hold. Um, yeah.
All right. Well, let's make the turn for where things started to improve. But I do want to address the fear that's involved with that because you guys talked about right how you know there are so many thoughts and misconceptions and myths, but it is based on maybe what we saw our parents or our grandparents or aunts or uncles go through years ago with back surgery. Back surgery's come a long way. It's not always as well understood, but there is a lot of fear, especially if someone says you need a spinal fusion or you need back surgery. You guys did everything you could to avoid it until you couldn't avoid it anymore. And that's what brought you to Dr. Christopher Good at VSI. And he said, look, Brian, you need surgery. Did you, at that point, were you like, okay, fine, like whatever I have to do, or was there still fear?
Well, I mean,
well,
can I?
there's still fear. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, but the thing is, when we first herniated your disc, we we thought through it, and we thought, if you have a bad disc and the disc has a purpose and it's serving a space and a cushion, we don't want to keep cutting at it or fusing it. If we're going to do something, we want a disc replacement. And this was before it was very common. This was at the beginning of the journey.
Right.
We had decided that. We had just thought it through. When he's young, we want to do this. And when at that point, it really wasn't available, at least that we knew about.
Not widely, yeah.
Yeah. So
spinal fusions were far more common.
But we also saw our neighbor across the street, their daughter have a spinal fusion young, like at an early age 30s. In life, and
in her 30s.
And she had, she struggled with it.
Yeah.
And so that was that was a scary thought. Yeah. So that was a scary thought, that it wouldn't, not only is surgery scary to kind of, to go and have a surgery, but also that it wouldn't solve, the potential that it wouldn't solve anything was also very scary.
Right. That it could make it worse. Right. Worse. That it could make it worse.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah.
Could it get worse?
Yeah.
Because that must have felt unimaginable at that moment. Yeah. With what you were going through. So when you saw Dr. Good, what did he recommend?
Well, we knew what we wanted because
we did you came with a plan. You'd had 10 years to think about.
Yeah. And I researched the history of disc replacement, how it started in Germany.
You are a doctor, we should say yourself. So right, you can go into the archives and read the studies. Yeah.
So I found the history of it and where one of the big centers in Texas is, and we were willing to go anywhere in the world if we had to. I mean, we'll figure out the finances.
You were in
later.
Pennsylvania at the time, is that right?
At that point, yes, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I just did a lot of research, and thank goodness I found out about Dr. Christopher Good. I was looking up actually the disc replacement models. That's how detailed I got into it. I was like, I know what model we want, or we think we want. We want the latest model. We want the highest mobility. And so when I was Googling the models, I found the website the website that Virginia Spine had the most information about even what model.
Down to the models. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what attracted me to them. And then they had a free consult online. And then we were very impressed with even the PA that first met with us. We had met with other spine surgeons locally, and we knew what we wanted, and we knew more than they did, which was not.
That's not ideal.
And it was a bad, terrifying experience in a way, because I can't go to you. I mean, I want the latest. I don't want you to repeat the same surgery. I don't want you to just chip away at the disc. What will happen in 10 years? He didn't have an answer. I didn't like that. I want someone who's thinking ahead, who's thinking outside of the box, who is just extremely patient-centric, and just really, really compassionate and really driven to care for the patient.
What did Dr. Good say to you that put you at ease? Because you said you were at ease going into the surgery with him, right? As much as you can be.
We were on the exact same page. That's how I knew. And I felt peace. I knew we could trust him. I could just tell that he was compassionate, knowledgeable, just kind. And he seemed to be, my impression was, very skilled from what he was, not bragging, but I think I do surgery, and I just really, the way he answered questions, the way he was open to questions is a really good sign of a surgeon that is really patient-centered. And so I could just tell from how his bedside manner and his willingness to say, look, this is obviously the issue. This bulge, this is what I want to do. And he also, we actually went to multiple spine surgeons, and another one that does disc replacements. We drove many hours, and he was the one to think outside the box and do it in a way that no one else even thought was possible. And so the way he said he wanted to do it, it was so logical. It made so much sense. And I knew, there's always risks, especially when you are thinking outside the box. But I knew that was what we wanted.
So you had collapsed again, Brian, if my notes are right, but in December of 2022, you have 5 kids now. You were watching all 5 kids. You'd collapsed again. Like life was, it was already hard and it was just getting harder and harder. So you did this surgery then about 5 months later, right? In April of 2023. So when you finally had it, what was it like? Do you remember waking up? Did you feel different from the start or did it take time?
I remember waking up and it was hard. It was really hard at first. But I remember.
What had it been? A disc replacement on one disc? Was it a disc replacement on one disc?
Okay. So what he did was he opened up the space and the bulge was in the back of his spine. He went from the front,
the herniation
opened the space.
Was actually.
He had a very tiny window to work through, which again, this is what no other surgeon even thought was possible. He opened up the space and he dug through a little hole to try to pull all the pieces out of the disc, which everyone else said, oh no, we're going to have to go behind, we're going to chip away, and then we'll see if you're still a candidate for a disc replacement if we don't damage too much bone. Well, no, he said, let's do it all at once. You're going to have, strong bone that way.
Right there was a big difference, is that he was not, one of his first steps was not to take away bone. And so like, as a patient, I'm thinking, well, that's great because I can't get that back.
Right.
So that was another, he was confident, but not arrogant, but confident that he could get it or approach it that way and not take away bone. And so that was a big difference in everyone else we had talked to also.
Yeah, I think the key is to get multiple opinions. That's the best. Do your research, ask a lot of questions, and get multiple opinions. And that's when you can gain your confidence.
Then you can. So you were confident going in, and it was hard coming out, Brian. What do you remember about your recovery?
Well, I'll compare it a little. So this is a disc replacement surgery. It's more invasive than my first surgery, and I'll just kind of compare the two a little bit, just for an example. So my surgery in 2018, it was a microdiscectomy, which just means they cut off part of the bulge or cut out the herniated part of the disc. And it was much less invasive. It was like 8 a.m. I went in like a pain level of like 9, and I come out at noon a pain level of like 0, almost like 1. Mm-hmm. Like I'm only sore from the incision, like only sore from the surgery itself. That was in 2018 with a different surgeon, but he did a good job. And then when I go into a surgery with Dr. Good, it was again in the morning, and I was in pain. I was 5 months post-injury, and it was not the same immediately after surgery. So because they put me, well, I don't know exactly, but they, it was hard to walk, but I walked.
You walked right away.
They put me,
wow.
Yeah, like I walked right away.
That impressed me.
They wheeled me to the room, walked from the wheelchair to the bed. And, I'm still like kind of out of it from the medicine and the pain a little bit, but yeah, it was right away. Able to walk, able to move around. And then there's the first, I would say 48 hours that were the most difficult after that. It wasn't like an immediate, like pain-free. There was a lot more work that was done to my body in the second surgery. So, recovery is it's going to look different than the first one. But that said, I did start to recover really quickly. And I started to have, within like 1 week, I was having significantly less pain. Like I came home, or for example, I came home from the hospital, I was only there for like 24 hours roughly.
Maybe 48.
Or was it 48?
36, something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, it was a short time. I was going to be there from Tuesday through Friday, and we ended up not needing that because Dr. Good was able to get most of the disc out, or the vast majority. And
yeah, we had a backup plan in case he couldn't get it all from the front. So we got to cancel the second surgery in case he had to also go through the back later.
Oh, that's great. Okay. And what do you remember going home, Brian?
Going home was painful. It was about an hour and a half drive. And we took our time, so maybe it was a little longer than that, but the distance-wise, it was about an hour and a half. But it was, again, like immediately, it's just post-surgery, like kind of soreness, pain. The bones are hurting, the soft tissue's kind of achy. Like it's just like surgery pain, but you can tell the difference from like neurological nerve, like nerve type pain where your back like spasms up and can't, like pushing through it doesn't help. Pushing through it is not going to make it better. It could make it worse. This was just, it felt very much like post-surgery pain.
When did you know you were different, that your body really felt different? How long did it take before you knew there'd been a big change?
We knew in the hospital there was a big change. We knew.
Did? Okay.
The old pain was gone.
Yeah. Yeah, so the old triggers of the pain were gone, and that's how I knew. Because previously, like laying on my side and moving my, like laying my leg over or moving in a certain direction, or like shifting like left to right or right to left, like all of those things would cause pain. Bending forward would cause pain. I could all of a sudden like bend forward soon after surgery while still in the hospital and without having like a shooting pain down my leg. And then so very quickly I could see that it was a major improvement. Things were much better, and that was part of what got me out of the hospital so quick, is that I could tell that it wasn't the pain that I had before, and that was kind of our indicator that I didn't need that second surgery, because the first one was so successful.
So it's been 9 months. I mean, it's almost hard to imagine how different your life is, or at least it seems. I mean, you are a stay-at-home dad. You're an active dad with 5 kids now. You are a PE teacher at your co-op. Tell us what you did on your summer vacation, which was only a couple months after the surgery, right? Naomi, you said that's when you sort of stood there with your mind blown, right? Like, who wants to tell that story?
Yeah, in the ocean, Brian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you were boogie boarding.
So but again, keep in mind, like I had, what was it, the 12-week okay?
So you were
Whenever you were clear. As soon as you were cleared, you boogie boarded in the ocean with the kids.
Yeah, doing the bodyboarding or boogie boarding in the ocean, in the Atlantic. So yeah, it was.
I mean, that was 3 months later. I've seen the video, and Naomi, you can hear you like laughing as you're taking the video. Like, were you scared? Like, oh my God, he's going to hurt himself again? Or were you just delighted to have your husband back?
I was just so excited. Yeah. That he could be a dad again.
That's what, and you said your kids are finally getting to meet their dad again, right? I mean, wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, he couldn't hold our youngest until the 12 weeks after.
And your youngest was almost a year old at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, oh gosh. So now you can hold your kids, you can boogie board. What is life like now? And what do you want to tell other people if they're still stuck in that pain place?
Life now is so much more normal. Like I get to enjoy the great moments, like with my kids, that as they're growing up, I get to throw the ball with them. I get to race them around the yard or something. Like I get to go on hikes in scouts with my boys, and I'm able to just be myself again. And that actually being myself is the thing that the back pain took away. I very much felt like a different person, that it was not me, but I couldn't get away from the pain. The pain kept me down. And so my family didn't get to, be around me. They got to be around the guy who was in a lot of pain all the time. So I would say that, if you're struggling with this kind of back pain, look into Virginia Spine Institute. Like, look into getting care from someone you trust. And it is possible to get yourself back to be yourself again. I didn't think that was possible. I had given up hope in that, because it had been so constant for a decade or more, and it's like way too soon, right? Like, I was supposed to be a young guy, but I felt much older and much more like not myself. And so it's been amazing, and I'm very glad, very grateful that I did it. Very grateful that Dr. Good did such a good job. I mean, he gave me my life back. He gave me my family, and he gave my family me. Like, I'm able to be a dad again. I'm able to do all the things that I've wanted to do that's why I became a dad, right? Like, all those things that I wanted to do, I can do it again.
Gosh, that's amazing. Naomi, what do you want to say to people out there who love the person in pain? What's the message to them?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Just being there for them is important. To support them, I think. It's hard to know. It's hard to know that, to get that positive feedback, but to just keep doing it anyway. For me, prayer was also important. Exercise helped me cope with the stress. So some self-care is important as well, and not to only get lost in that.
Caring for the other person, but right,
caring for the other person, or you will not be able to take care of them if you can't take care of yourself. Be an advocate, doing the research. That's one way to show that you love them, and can advocate for them.
I mean, Naomi, that's what I take. Like, Brian, she can give you all the chocolate and whatever for Valentine's Day going forward. But to me, the ultimate expression of love in your story is she was Googling model numbers of disc replacement devices. Like, you're not going to get any more romantic than that.
Yeah, I had lost all hope.
Expression of love.
Yeah.
And he's like, at that point, he had given up. He's like, I shouldn't even get the surgery, right? And I'm like, I don't care what you say, we're doing it. Those kind of things, when they're so lost, so
yeah.
So you have to.
I've spoken to other people.
Yeah.
You just lose hope. Like, it's okay to have hope, I guess, but you lose.
But sometimes you need your partner or the person who loves you. Sometimes it falls on them to maintain it. I think that's the other thing from your story is that if you don't have it, at least the person who loves you does, and they don't give up. Yeah, guys, ooh, what a story! I can't think. I mean, you're gonna make people cry. You give us goosebumps. I think it's amazing, and to see where your life is now. Oh, it's so inspiring. Thank you.
Well, hopefully we can help at least one person get the help that they deserve and get their life back, their family back.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate your time.